Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sean and Sax show. We're back at it. It's been two weeks, a week.
I feel like it's been forever.
I feel like it's been forever. It's been.
Do we know how to do this?
No,
still?
1 week.
I don't know that I do. We'll
put the mic
we'll find
by
out.
your face.
Hello?
That's what you're supposed to talk into. Guys, welcome to the show. Welcome back to us. We were gone last week. We did not do an episode last week. We contemplated doing one just on our phone, and we just didn't. I mean, let's just call it what it is. We just didn't. However, we did have some amazing conversations. We had an opportunity. We can talk a little bit about this. We'll probably do a whole show on where we were last week. But in fact, we will do an entire show, and we'll probably do many shows here moving forward. But we were with OUR, Operation Underground Railroad. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's an organization that was founded by our good friend Tim Ballard, who he worked for the government for a number of years in the sex trafficking area. He was one of the first guys in the federal government to kind of really spearhead sex trafficking. And long story short, and I'll let you guys just Google it and you can find out all the information yourself, but he saw a lot of the red tape and a lot of the bureaucracy as he traveled around the world, trying to fight sex trafficking, which is a multi-billion-dollar deal, and it's a big problem around the world. And so he left the government and started OUR. And so I've known Tim for years. Good guy, family man, and I went on an operation with OUR 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. And we went and did an operation, and it wasn't as intense as this one. But long story short, Tim approached us 2 months ago.
In May.
About that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, May. So about 2 months ago.
Whatever month we're in. It was 2 months ago.
Babe, May, June, yeah, 2 months. Okay. See how that worked, friends? We're going to talk about that later on this relationship podcast. 2 months ago? No, May. Yeah, babe, that was 2 months ago. Anywho, 2 months ago, and invited us to go do an operation with them, and it didn't work out scheduling-wise, so we had kids graduating and some other stuff. And this one did. And so we were gone for 5 days, and it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. It was a spiritual experience. It was a powerful experience. So you can't really put words to it.
More than anything, it was a spiritual experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we really do need to do a whole episode and share a lot of it. Because there's some really cool things that happened. Some
really funny things.
Some really funny things.
You'll just die. It'll be so funny.
Sax is like, I don't know if I want to talk about some of these things. I'm still trying to recover from some of these things. She was scarred a little bit by some things.
No.
It was good. It was a very cool experience, and that's where we were. It was a pretty short notice deal, and we made it work. And so that's why we didn't do an episode last week. So we're making up for it.
However,
However,
today's topic goes very much in alignment with where we went and why we went.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We were coming back.
Yeah.
And we had a kind of a little layover, if you will, in Florida, and we were on the beach we were only there for 4 or 5 hours before we had to catch a flight.
Yeah.
And we had a really cool conversation, and that was what we decided we wanted to share today and talk about today. So fill us in on that, babe.
Yeah. We were just chatting it up with our feet in the ocean, and we were talking about how important it is to not only find your purpose, but to live with purpose. Because if not, you really become a kite. Like you just kind of float around, and it's really hard to stay grounded or driven or centered when you don't know what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. I brought up an example of like stay-at-home moms. This is the number one area I personally have seen where these women lack a sense of purpose outside of a baby, right? And even though being a new mom is such an important job and such a powerful experience, having our purpose attached to another human being, even if it's our infant, there's not a lot of longevity there. There has to be an addition to being a mother. Being a mother is just, it's like being a wife. Like your purpose is not being a wife. And you can call me out on that, but
I
it's
agree.
not like, and so, finding happiness in something that drives your soul or ignites your soul and drives your heart towards doing something more and having a purpose to be here on this planet. Like, if not, like you look at, this is kind of, I'm derailing this a little bit, but I had someone tell me once, I believe it was a shaman, that it's that people, especially with severe self-harm or severe depression or even suicide, is when people they've lost their sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And all they know is the lack of their own life and the like the emptiness of their own soul. And so the significance of having a true purpose is really, really, really powerful. And we wanted to talk about that today.
Yeah. I had a really cool, there's a couple avenues that we want to go down and talk about this, but I had a really cool experience a number of years ago at one of the first Lions Den Lives. And this is a question that I've asked myself. This is a question that literally every human being has asked themselves, like, what's my purpose, right? Mm-hmm. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People, there's been thousands of books written. There's courses on it. Google it, and everybody's got their opinion and their idea. On the flip side of that, though, if you think about what you just said, why people are depressed, why people are angry, why people are frustrated, why people are sad, why people are depressed. I mean, there's an entire multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry that is here to medicate, to soothe the pain, to numb the pain for people that are in this state. Literally, like when you stop and think about it, people that are in this state of not necessarily being lethargic, but being sad, being what you just said, like not knowing what's my purpose. Mm-hmm. That idea alone, like not knowing what my purpose is, leads you down a path of either discovery or depression. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people nowadays, men, women, couples, kids, teenagers, are like, what's my purpose? I get messages all day long on Instagram from 18, 19, 20-year-old kids going, what do I do? Where do I go? I don't know what my purpose is, and I'm not sure which angle to take. And I had this really cool experience with this lady at Lions Den Live, and this was a really pivotal moment for me in my life, because this is a question that I've been wanting to answer. After, the story, Sax, but like, after my divorce and bankruptcy and kind of my midlife crisis, if you will, at 31, 32 years old, I went on that same quest. Like, why the fuck am I even here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like not how do I make more money and find a hot chick and build this life, but like, why am I even on this rock? Mm-hmm. And it led me to a really, really, really interesting journey. And as I was having this conversation with this lady, we were doing a Q&A at Lions Den Live, and she was sitting on the front row, and she got a little bit emotional, and I said, what's up? And I said, what do you want to talk about? And she's like, I'm struggling with trying to find my purpose. She's like, I don't know if my purpose is to be a mom, if my purpose is to be a wife. I've been married. I have kids. She's 40-something years old, saying, I don't know what my purpose is. And is it to be a mom? Is it to be this? But I find happiness there, and I love that job. Sure. But is that why I'm here? Mm. And it was interesting because that was the first time that I shared what I want to share with you guys now, where I kind of looked at everybody and I was like, okay, do we want to go? How far down the rabbit hole do we want to go with this? And everybody's like, let's go. And I started to really understand myself when I was depressed. When I think about like the times in my life when I was the most depressed, when I struggled the most with my own value, my own worth, all my fuck ups, all of my past, being who I was and determining who I was, I realized that I was looking backwards. Like I can literally look at every single time I was sad, I was frustrated, I was angry, I was depressed. I was looking at something in my past. I was looking at my dad, or I was looking at my marriage, I was looking at my divorce, I was looking at, all of these, bankruptcy and making millions and losing millions, and I was literally looking backwards. And every single time I did that, I found myself in this dark space, in this depressed state, in this, remorseful place, right? And then I started to realize that every time I felt anxious or anxiety, it was something in the future. And it was, I've got to do this. I have to be this. I have to be this guy, and I have to go do this to be a good dad, and I have to do this to be a good husband, and I have to, and all of these things started causing me anxiety. And it was like, if I'm looking backwards and I'm depressed, and I'm looking forward and I'm anxious, like, when is it that I find peace? Like, when is it that I'm happy? When is it that I find calm? When is it that I can hear God talking to me? When is it that I feel good? And I realized that in singular moments, as I was literally present to where I was, what conversation I was having, what I was watching a sunset, instead of trying to film it and post it and all these other things, like just being literally present in a singular moment. And I found that my purpose for me is not to be this guy or to be this dad or to be this husband or to be any of these things, or to try and make up for or redo or repair anything from my past. I truly believe that my purpose, and I believe everyone's purpose, is to live in a singular moment. When you think about the word finding, how pleasurable is it to find your keys? Mm-hmm. Your keys are lost. Are you like, you know what? I'm just going to go skip around the house and find my keys. No, you're throwing shit upside down. You're ripping cushions open. You're like, where are the keys? Where are the keys? It's trying to find something is this act of not having it. Your kid gets lost in the store. Are you just like walking around getting green beans and freaking kombucha? No, you're running aisle to aisle to aisle trying to find your kid, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about finding your purpose, it means you don't have it. It means you don't know what it is. It means it's this thing in the future that I've got to find. And what happens when we go into the future? We get anxious. We find anxiety because it's something that we don't have. And so I tried on this idea of, what if my purpose is to just live in a singular moment? What if God's challenge for me, opportunity for me, invitation to me, is to literally create a mentality that would allow me to disconnect from everything in front of me and everything behind me and find a singular moment. Mm-hmm. And for me, as I shared this with the group, it was weird. It was like everybody's jaws were on the floor like, wait, what the fuck did you just say? Like, it doesn't make any sense because it's completely contrary to the entire world of self-help and motivation and, you know, all of these other things. And it was like, I have found for me that when I'm struggling, I'm not present. I'm not in a singular moment.
Correct.
But when I find myself and put myself, I don't take the word find, but when I put myself or create that moment and I'm in that moment, that's my purpose. Right. Because that's where all the goodness happens. Right. That's where my connection to you happens. That's where my connection to my children happens. That's when God's talking to me saying, say this, do this, go here. That's where, when we're in a space, when we're down doing, work with OUR, I'm not worried about tomorrow. I'm not worried about yesterday. I'm in a singular moment. Like, what's the objective? What do I have to do right here, right now? Mm-hmm. And when you think about it from that perspective, friends, like, what if your purpose is to just live in a singular moment? What if all of the goodness, all of the magic, all of the love, all of the connection, all of the inspiration, all of the revelation is literally in a singular moment? And that's where we find the peace. That's where we find the comfort. That's where we find that calmness, if you will. Mm-hmm. And anytime you're not in that space, just literally look at what you're looking at. Think about what you're looking at. Think about what you're thinking about. Am I forward? Am I behind? Am I worried about yesterday? Am I trying to repair yesterday? Am I trying to dictate the future? Does this make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on this?
There's a book called Be Here Now by Ram Dass, and his entire, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ram Dass. If you're not, I highly encourage you to familiarize yourself with him. He's fantastic. That he wrote a book, and it's not really it's kind of a book. It's bound, let's say that, and it's called Be Here Now. And I always say that, like, I even joke with the kids. I'm like, be here now, mm-hmm. like right here, because we get off and flighty, and that's what's really powerful in these singular moments. I will echo that is, when I do my meditations, I always do them in nature, or like 90% of the time I do them in nature, and the whole idea is getting quiet with life, and not just with my life and my head, but with life. I to feel the earth and to feel this. I know this might sound, it doesn't matter what it sounds like because it's the truth.
It's your truth.
And to feel the sun and hear birds and hear humans laughing on, the trails. And this is when I get really centered with feeling life. And so my purpose becomes way more deep. My driving purpose is always to serve and connect. That's just who I am. I always want to serve myself, others around me, and I want to connect. That'll drive me all day long. And so those moments are really very, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it's to be able to receive all of that life force in those quiet moments is really powerful. Mm-hmm. And it fills my heart. It fills up my soul. Like it's really something. And yeah, like purpose could also be, to create. Like we have a friend, hello Scott, that his entire life turned around when he started creating. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing or being. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you find that. It's just embodying that in your space, and if it's very easy to discover if you get quiet enough with yourself. I think so often people are like, my purpose, it's like this big thing, like, who am I going to be when I grow up? Well, I don't even know that answer yet. And I'm like almost 38, and it's the same idea of like this, why am I here? I have this big thing to do, but what if it's not big and huge? Mm-hmm. What if it's simple and small and singular, all in present moments of connection? Like, what if it's that simple? Yeah. What if that fills that cup and it takes away the anxiety of trying to fill some great idea of being something larger than life?
When you say big and great, like I think there's this notion, this idea, and this has obviously been amplified with social media, mm-hmm. right? Comparing, and you and I were, a lot of this conversation came from you and I talking about wanting to help couples and mm-hmm. wanting to do, couples retreats and stuff like that. And the first thought process is going into, well, who's doing what? What are they doing and what are they doing and what are they doing? And that comparison game of, looking at where we need to be or what we need to be doing based off of some other reality. Right. And the truth is when you and I are in these moments of singularity, that's when we find the clarity. That's when we find the direction. That's when you find the peace. That's when you kind of learn to answer the call, right? Mm-hmm. But what's fascinating is you were talking about women and stay-at-home moms, and I've seen the same thing in coaching. It's like, what is my purpose? We've followed the map, if you will, that we were given. Mm-hmm. Mom and dad said, go do this. I did it. I went to college. Right. I got the degree. I did the thing. I got the job. I got the wife. I got the husband. I got the house, the cars, the whole thing. And a lot of people, I feel, are where I was at 30-something years old going, is this it? Like, is this my purpose, to just be here, work this job, do these things day in and day out for the rest of my life, for the next 30 years until I retire? And I feel like right now, there's a lot of conversation around this, and Ram Dass and some of these other philosophers, Alan Watts, that have been talking about this stuff for years. It's truly understanding, like, that everything that we want is literally happening right now. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard for people to wrap. It was hard for me for many years to understand this, because I needed to hit this target. And successful dad was here, and this is what, my 401k and my IRA and my retirement and all these other things should look like. But what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And trying to attach yourself to something there causes that stress, causes that frustration, or even worse, looking backwards saying, I've done these things that, I was married and I got divorced and now my life is fucked. And you're looking backwards at all the things that you could have done and should have done and would have done. And you just find yourself in this constant, like, hamster wheel of frustration, of remorse, of bitterness, mm-hmm. right?
You're attaching to so many right. things to create your purpose, right. to validate that you're worthy. Right. And you can't, you can go around and Velcro shit on you all day. It doesn't mean means you might look cooler right. than others, but it's not going to be fulfilling. You cannot fill a void with things mm-hmm. or with, banking, numbers and bank account. Like, you can't, right. like, you can't do it. And I mean, I've even seen, like, with me, like, when I was a stay-at-home mom, a big thing for me, as now it's apparent, like I was making jewelry. I'm still making jewelry. I have always made jewelry. It's kind of evolved and changed, but that to me, that's that creation. That fills my cup. It is therapeutic. It's, it gives me a sense of accomplishment. It's so simple, but it's beautiful, and it's my accomplishment. I get more fulfillment from making a pair of earrings than I do like probably selling a house. Like, it's just like, because it's something that I've created, and that's why I encourage everyone to come up with a creation, like whatever your art is. Is it dance? Is it poetry? Is it, comedy? Is it whatever it is? Like, there's so much healing and growth in the arts. Right.
One thing that I wanted to touch on that you just did is movement and action. And I think a lot of people have this idea that this meditative state or being present in the moment means that I'm in this ultra zen, my mind is completely blank, God is talking to me, and I'm receiving all of these radical downloads. I don't agree with that at all. It happens at times, and it's really cool and it's really fun. But I have found that the more I move and the more action that I take in being in that moment, that's when I find the most fulfillment. And give you an example, like walking down the street, every single person listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. You've all had this, where you have that thought, that feeling that comes to you, go talk to this person, go do this, go do that. And I have always found that the second that I act on those things is when I receive the most fulfillment. And to me, that's living in that singular moment. I mean, we pray. I don't know if you're a Christian or not listening to this. It doesn't really matter, but I believe in prayer, and I pray. And what's fascinating about prayer is we're constantly praying, but when are we listening? When are we receiving? And I truly believe it's those teeny little moments, those teeny little experiences is God's way of talking to us. And the reality is if you're 10 years ahead and worried about your retirement in 10 years and stressing about this, or you're lamenting over something from 10 years ago and you're not in this singular moment, as you're walking down that street, then what?
Right.
You're not receiving. You're not connecting. And so there's this battle that happens where we take the ego, or we take the pride, or we take the past, or we take the future, and we try and live it in this moment where you're walking down the streets and the voice comes, God says, go talk to this person. You're like, well, I did that once before, and that person ended up being a total fucking idiot. Or I don't want to do that now because our day and age is weird and you can't go talk to people, right? Both of those realities are literally living in the future, living in the past. And so I encourage people with what you're talking about, that fulfillment in the moment of making that pair of earrings. It's magical. It's spiritual. And as you continue to do that, you continue to enjoy those experiences. You continue to want to be in those experiences. And that's something I really encourage people listening to this to do is to continue to put yourself in those singular moments. And what will happen is you'll start appreciating them more. You'll start recognizing them more. You'll start recognizing, oh, dude, I'm not feeling so good right now, or I'm super anxious about this, and I'm thinking about this. Okay, that's why I'm stressed out. Or I'm really depressed, or I'm in this black hole of shit, and because I'm worried about this and thinking about this and lamenting over this. I have shitty days, you have shitty days. Like, I don't want people to think that we're in this constant state of skittles and dancing and prancing around and everything is euphoric. It's not that reality. But what I want you guys to understand is that as you become a practitioner of creating moments, of living in moments, of realizing that, like, I found myself taking fewer and fewer and fewer pictures of sunsets. I found myself taking fewer and fewer pictures of sunrises, because being in that singular moment, I don't even think about it. We went out with friends the other day and we didn't take a picture. We normally take a selfie, and we want to take a selfie with everybody. And we got home and I thought about that, and I was like, that's because literally we had the most epic time and we were just in this moment, and we weren't thinking about, oh, social media, we have to post this on social media, which is weird because this is like part of our game is this social media thing. But when you find yourself in those moments, it's euphoric. It's epic. And when you create those experiences in those moments, you want more of them. Yep. It's like anything else, right? You find something good, you build something good, you create something good, and you want more of them. But I am a firm believer that, my purpose. It's not to be this dad or this husband or this dude. It's to literally build myself, build my mind, build my heart, build my soul, build my life so that I can live in a singular moment, because that's where everything's happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I was also just thinking about, like, okay, so I studied anthropology in college. So I always look at, like, where we are today as human beings, as Homo sapiens, and you look back and where we've come from. And, you know, I wish I could quote these things that I'm about to say, but I can't, because I read them in a book somewhere. But you look at the distractions that we, like our phone. Sean just grabbed his phone, right? Like, we are. No, I'm just showing that, like, we have constant distractions everywhere. I was driving with my kids on the freeway the other day, and I was like, look at how many billboards want you to be buying all the time. And Will was like, whoa, I didn't even notice that. And I'm like, we literally are so stimulated all the time, so much that we literally have to become very, very, very conscious to step away from, like, okay, my phone is, like, got me spiraling through all the apps. You know, I'm driving down the freeway, I'm listening to the radio, I'm watching TV, everything wants your attention. And if you don't get a hold of that, and if you're not in the driving seat, like the driver's seat, you will become, you know, you'll become a part of that, and you won't be fulfilled. You won't be living in your purpose. You will literally be drinking from a fire hose of what our society has created. You know, there's this.
Where do all those things want you to go to? Like every billboard, every call to action.
Somewhere where you're not.
Exactly.
It's like you either need to be thinner, or you need to be prettier, or you need to you're hungry, or it's like it's pulling on you emotionally, and all these things in all these directions. And just be aware of it. Be mindful. And I hope now you notice this a little bit more. But also, I think it was Aubrey Marcus talked about this, and it was like, we used to be able to tap into journey space naturally. We had the ability where our minds could go into this euphoric state, not necessarily euphoric, but where we could go and be with God and be in the space where now we literally need medicines to aid us back into that space, because we're so we've generation after generation after generation, we've evolved to become so desensitized to this voice in us and this higher purpose and all these things, because we're just being flooded with we're stimulated all the time. And so, and it's not a negative, because we live in a beautiful world with beautiful opportunities. And I love to go eat at restaurants, and sometimes I do buy off of a billboard. Like, I am not saying it's negative, but be mindful that those things will pull you from your mission on your purpose if you are not careful.
I think that's the huge lesson here is, a lot of people might hear me saying, well, don't plan your future, or don't think about your past, or any of these other things. When you're not in control of them, that's when you're stuck. That's when you're medicating. That's when you're here. That's when you're there. But it's not bad to look at your past, to reference it for knowledge, to reference it for building, to reference it for, you know, education or whatever else. It's not bad to look at the future. We talk about our future all the time. We're constantly visioning our future and thinking about these things in the future. What I think people like you said, have to be aware of is when that manipulates you to the point where you do not have control, and you can't create that experience to be in the moment. You're on a date night, and you're worried about tomorrow's business meetings. You're on a date night, and you're worried about the last date night that sucked, and will that rear its ugly head again? You're on date night, and you're thinking about, well, you know, this, and this, instead of being literally present in the exact moment that you're in. You're sitting there talking to your kid, and your kid's talking to you, but you're thinking about the deal that has to be done at work, or you're thinking about this, or you're thinking about that, or any of these other things. It's a radically profound experience to know this. It's also incredibly, I don't want to say difficult. Is it difficult? Would you say it's difficult to create this experience, to put yourself in a singular moment, or is it just simply a challenge?
I think I don't think it's difficult. I think that it just requires you to be mindful.
Right.
And to be mindful means, like, to be conscious and in that moment and present of what's going on in your head, what your heart is saying. It's like, if I'm sitting like this and, my kids are talking to me and I'm like, I'm not actually hearing my children.
Right.
I'm not actually, they're knowing that they're not being valued. And so it's like, I have to be mindful to say, I know that this is not a good combination. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to be here now. Be here now. Be here now. And it's just, you just have to, it's a discipline. It's like going to the gym. Is it hard to go to the gym? No. Is it hard to start going to the gym when you haven't gone to the gym for 10 years? Yes. Like, it's not hard. It's just a new muscle. And now I hope this plants a seed, sparks a little fire, that now you are aware of things like Will in the billboards. He was like, oh, hello. Like, it's right there, but he didn't see it. And so, no, I don't think it's hard. I don't think anything's hard. We will get hard no matter what we do. So we choose our hard, right? So no.
And you become a practitioner of it, it becomes easier.
Yep.
The 45-pound weight at the gym doesn't get lighter, you just get stronger.
Yep.
And so you can lift more of those 45-pound weights. It's the same thing here. The more you create that moment and literally recognize, oh shit, that was cool. Did you notice that we didn't even take a picture of the sunset? Did you notice that we had this epic conversation and didn't go here, didn't go there? Or we found ourselves literally lost in conversation and didn't even pick up our phones, let alone look at them or think about them.
Yeah.
You start recognizing these things and it becomes not only fun, but it almost becomes addictive. Like, you want to create more of these moments. You know what I mean?
And as I've said many, many times, if you're here, you're probably not doing it right. If you're in your heart space, you'll know. You'll know if, like, your purpose, those moments, you will feel that. You'll actually feel them in your heart. Like, it's almost like a warming sensation. But it's true. Like, you will feel that, especially when you have these agitations and you have these disconnects from your purpose and you feel lost. It's because you're in your head. You're looping a story, or you're angry, or you're fearful, or you're whatever it is. Like, you're here, and if you can become mindful that, like, okay, I'm obviously running loops through my head. Why? And I can be like, okay, consciously I'm dropping into my heart space. It's such an easy way to navigate right there. And I think just practice that.
Well, and a lot of people probably think about that as some hippy dippy bullshit. How do you do that? How would you say? No, real talk. Let's talk.
I do this all the time.
I know
so
you
I
do,
giggled.
and this is why I asked you this, because I know that you do this. So, the difference between the head space and the heart space. How can someone go from head space, which is where
Very
a lot
dangerous.
of us are? It's your practical, it's your reasoning, it's your logic, this is how it was before. This is how it's supposed to be. I trusted people before and I got fucked over and I'm never going to trust anybody else again, right? How do you go from your head to your heart?
I just ask myself, what do you really want? What do you want, girl? Like, do you want to fight with your husband? Do you want to have to, be resentful of the dog that can't get his fucking shit together? Like, what do I want? And I do go there, but the thing is with me is I'm like, okay, what do I want? And when I look, like with Sean, it's like, what do I want? I want a happy marriage. I want a best friend here. I want to be, I want joy, and sometimes it's even like my mind's like, but you're right. You're right. You have all of this. And it's like, but what do you really want? And this is like, I do this every single day of my life.
I ask myself that question probably 100 times a day.
Well, wait till you see us together in this. This is really funny.
Why anybody who's listening to this, who's ever worked with me, knows the number one question I ask anybody.
Yeah.
Very first question I ask anybody who wants to coach, who wants anything. What do you want? Like, what do you want?
Hey, like when we argue, I literally will sit there and I'm like,
do we really argue or do we just
we
disagree?
really argue.
We do?
Yeah, we really do.
I don't think we argue.
But what's cool is like I will stand there and
argue.
it's like,
I don't.
You're literally
I disagree.
arguing with me right now.
Carry on.
As it's like this thing is just like, I don't care if I'll take one for the team. Like, I will tell myself like it doesn't matter if I'm right.
Right.
It doesn't matter because I'm going to go back to Grace. This is my combo. This is how I go, is I drop into my heart space. And even though I can say I'm right and he's mean, or or this is this, or this is this. The truth is like, what do I want? And I want to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I give grace a lot. It's like, I'm like, you know what? Cool. Like that's their work. That's their work. That's the dog is not going to do his own work. But you know what I mean? Like, and so then I just give grace and I move on with my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to stay in those places either. So I let go of what my head's telling me is justified, or my emotions or my traumas or my triggers and all this stuff that I can stay there all day, and I just go to my heart.
Yeah.
And I go on with my life. It's
That
really
question,
simple.
that question though, babe, is, and I'm glad that you said that, because that is, I believe that's the most powerful question that you could ask any human being ever. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the most powerful question that you can ask yourself to create change.
Yeah.
Because I do the exact same thing. I mean, I'm egomaniac, running 100 miles an hour. I put all the fucking labels that you want. I don't really care. I have stories. I have trauma. I've been lied to, cheated on, hurt, deceived, blah, 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 like we all have, right? And I will find myself asking myself that question countless times a day, because my mind is like, yeah, see, this is just like yesterday. You and I'll be brutally honest. I've had that more since you and I have been together than ever before in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of fucking triggers and a lot of past and a lot of history and a lot of stories, right? Just like every one of you listening. Mm-hmm. And I'll find myself like, Saxony will literally say something that is verbatim to something that I've heard in the past. And instantly my mind is like, yep, see, there it is. My mind, my mind. I'm like, there it is. See, she's just like, this is just like, I heard this before, right? And then you kind of have that moment where you're like, fuck, okay, she's not my past. She has nothing to do with any of this. What do you want? Do you want to be triggered? And guys, hear me for a second. Saxy and I talk about self-coaching a lot. And this is a place where you can do one of two things. You can kind of roll your eyes at it, or realize that you literally have the ability to dictate your mind. You have the ability to dictate the outcome of every fucking situation and experience that you find yourself in. You don't believe me? Literally ask yourself this question. I'll get triggered, right? And I'll literally ask myself, what do you want? Do you want to fight with her? Do you want to try and prove that this is this is that, this is any of these things? And when you're logical with yourself, and when you move, as you say, into your heart space, you're like, no, I don't want to fucking fight. It doesn't make me more money. It's not going to get me laid tonight. I don't like how I feel. I'm going to be a miserable fucking prick. No, I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. And at the end of the day, I really can't. This is just me. I'm solving these problems. I have this feeling right now. So what do you want? Like, no, I want to get along. And so then literally the next action is completely different than what your mind is telling you should do or should think or should feel. It's completely different. Mm-hmm. Where my mind will say, oh, she said this and it reminds you of the past, and it's da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and say, what do you want? No, I want to be connected right now. I don't want to fucking argue. I don't want to fight. And I'll walk over and I'll smack your ass or grab your boobs or say something inappropriate or whatever to completely shift myself out of this space. And I think that you and I, we're both on the same page with this, and I think that it's probably one of the more difficult things that we do, but it's probably one of the more powerful things that we do, is to literally ask yourself that question in that moment. What do you want? Mm. And that's that singular moment that we're talking about. Right here, right now, what do you want? You're driving down the road, some dude cuts you off, flips you off, honks at you, gives you the bird. What do you want? Mm-hmm. Do you want to pull over on the side of the freeway right now and fucking go to jail? Part of me, the ego mind, is like, yes. But the truth is, my heart is here, and this is not at all what I'm interested in doing in my life right now. Mm-hmm. And one of two things will happen. You'll either answer that question honestly and literally create a different experience, create a different moment, create a different outcome, or stay in your head and try and rationalize, fuck your life up. And a really good example of this too is when you're walking down the street and you have that voice come into your head or that feeling, go do this, go say this. Every one of you listening to me right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. A song comes on the radio, this happens, that happens, and God says, text this person, call this person, pull over here, go do this, say this, write this. I know for certain that my life changed dramatically as soon as I started doing those things versus taking my carnal brain and going, well, I don't have time. Well, the last time I pulled over to help somebody, they did this or said this. Well, my mom is a total bitch. My dad is an asshole. I'm not going to send those text messages. I'm not going to do those things. And I'd have you consider for a second that perhaps that's why that karmic loop continues to freaking happen in your life. Perhaps it's that singular moment of someone, something, God saying, do this, say this, go here. And because you've built yourself and created yourself to be a literal vessel of wanting to be in these singular moments and finding yourself in there, becoming accustomed to them, it's like the Matrix. You're just movement. It's constant movement versus like this start, stop, ego brain rationalizing why you shouldn't send the text message, shouldn't say these things, why I should be mad at you. I should be mad at you because you said something that you shouldn't have said, and you know that you shouldn't have said it.
You're shooting all over
I'm shooting all over myself.
You're shooting all over me.
I should be mad. And then I stop and say, what do you really want? Do you want to go to war? Nope. Is war going to help you? Nope. Is war going to prove anything? Is war going to get you anything? No. In this singular moment, I want connection. In this singular moment, I want peace. In this singular moment, I want these things. You move into that space and you literally can become the architect. You become the literal creator of your own reality.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Me too. It's cool. It's fun. Is that what we talked about on the beach, babe? That's what we talked about.
A little bit. We just go in whatever direction we want. I just want to leave this with, if you guys are like, okay, this sounds great. How the fuck do I actually do this? Start with this. Take a moment and go lay on your bed and put your left hand on your heart, put your right hand on your belly, and just feel yourself breathe. It's going to sound crazy, but it is the quickest way to get myself centered and back into my body and out of my head. And you don't even have to do it when there's a problem. Like, do it when you're happy. Go and put your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your belly and breathe. Just sit there like for 30 seconds to 5 minutes, whatever you want, 15 minutes, take a nap, whatever. But the idea is you will start to develop a habit. And in that habit, if you continue to do this, you will start to hear from your heart space what it is that is calling to you for more. And who knows what it is. A lot of my purpose is doing this work. Like, I am committed to being a warrior in my own life. I don't know why, because some days I'm like, it would sure should be easier just to be a POS, not give a fuck, and be a gossiping bitch and like whatever. Like, so I literally make fun of it. I'm like, why did I sign up for so much? But once your eyes are open, and you're committed. But it's like one of those things, like, get in that space, familiarize yourself with that stillness of your body and your rhythms of just breathing and holding your heart, and you will start to receive what you need to receive. I promise.
I agree. My echo to that, my following that is asking yourself that question, what do you want?
Yeah.
And specifically for you guys who are, if you're at all like me, you want to be right. You want to win. You want to be the alpha. You want to prove your point. You want to fucking spike the ball in the end zone so hard. Like, you just do. It's just what we're built. It's in our DNA, is to just capture and conquer and win and prove and validate. It's where we are. It's who I am. It's in my DNA.
And you probably married a chick that's exactly the same way.
Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But I know the same way. I'm not a lay on the bed with my hand on my heart and my stomach. I will literally stop and just ask myself, what do you want right now? And it's really simple to lie to yourself. It's really fucking easy to lie to yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'd have you consider for a second that the more you become aware that you're lying, you literally like almost have this out-of-body experience where you're laughing at yourself. You're like, you stupid fuck. Why? You don't want that. Mm-hmm. And you'll start to literally create your own reality. And what'll be super weird, fellas, as you're doing this, your wife, if you're married, your woman, she knows all your freaking triggers. She knows all the buttons to push. She knows all the shit to say. She knows, well, These are the social contracts. If I do this, he'll do that. If I say this, he'll do that. If I, it's how it works. And when you become literally like Neo in the Matrix when he finally figures it out at the end, and you ask yourself, like, what do you want? You literally create a completely new fucking reality. You can create a completely new way of being, a completely new way of thinking, a new way of acting, and your woman's going to be like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I pushed that button and he was supposed to explode. And in his mind, he's going like, I want to blow up right now. I want to fucking go crazy, but what do you want? I don't. I want to create. I want peace. I want to get laid tonight. I want to freaking go close some big deals. I want to have some fun. I want to watch the sunset. And it's like the most gangster shit you can do. What do you want?
I agree.
Amen. All right. Anything else, babe?
No, sir.
That was good.
That was good.
Good conversation.
Yep.
Guys, thank you for listening. Please like, please comment, please share. If you haven't done so yet, will you please go over to iTunes or Google Play, excuse me, and leave us a review. 5-star, 7-star, 10-star, whatever the amount of stars you can do. Leave all of the stars and say how wonderful and great and amazing this podcast is. We would really appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. See you next time.
Much
love you guys.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.